Previously on the Project Umbrella podcast.
I got lost in Kajuju. We died multiple times, but mainly down to the fact that we were playing on a PlayStation 3, so we were experiencing lag.
Essentially, on the one hand, as you said, it's like here's a replacement for Umbrella, but on the other hand, here's a replacement for Umbrella.
He kept falling in and falling in and falling in, that he finally threw the controller across the room in anger.
We don't know anything about him. He's probably long dead and gone now.
Let's call him Clive.
I feel like we're like the top gear of Resident Evil streaming. Ambitious but rubbish.
Project Umbrella.
Hello and welcome to our second community podcast special, but the first Q&A session being recorded live on the Project Umbrella podcast Discord server, where nothing can possibly go wrong. That's the first thing that's gone wrong. I'm Nick, better known as Neptune, and I'll not only be your podcast host, but moderator too. Joining me on the podcast, we have Stars Tyrant.
Hello.
And we have George Trevor.
Hi.
All of whom, including myself, are from the World Cup winning nation of England.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
We also have on the podcast, slightly awkward, Romby. He's from New Zealand, ladies and gentlemen. Hi, Romby.
The also possible winning World Cup nation.
Well, name on the trophy, as they say, but welcome, Rob.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, some of your famous people were saying it should be shared.
Shared?
It comes down to bloody boundaries. Ugh, it's terrible.
Romby, it really doesn't matter because, as at least I know, cricket is not a sport.
That should have been my answer, GG.
It should have been. But it is further bad news for New Zealand because not only did they lose the World Cup this week, they also lost the title of the world's steepest street to a little road in Wales.
Yeah, that is actually entirely true. The steepest street's actually in my hometown in Dunedin, so... Yeah, it's interesting. That's controversial too.
It is.
It's not like a proper street. It isn't two-way. It's like all these things. And everyone's like, well, the one in Dunedin's an actual like residential road. There's houses lining both sides of the street, so... Been one of those weeks, huh?
So, welcome to our podcasters there, but more importantly, welcome to everyone on Discord who has tuned in to have a listen, and for anyone who's downloaded after the event. So, what is this podcast all about? Well, me and the team, we get asked questions. We've been doing this for 7 odd years now, and we got asked lots of kind of ad hoc questions, and we thought rather than try to answer them in one main podcast, we will do it in a special community podcast where anyone can listen in and also ask questions. Whether this will work, I don't know, but everyone is on the recording sessions, and if you have a specific question, please put it in the podcast text chat and I will get to you ASAP. Then what we'll do, if you are on the voice chat as well, I will then unmute you effectively and let you ask the question to the team, and you can be a special guest on the podcast for a short period of time where we can deliberate your questions to the team. It all sounds wonderfully workable, who knows, but we'll see. Thank you to Sunny and Cyanic for helping me with this. I'm not very good at this type of thing, and we'll see how it goes. In terms of what questions, anything Biohazard related in universe, and I know we're all dying to know what sandwich George Trevor was having in 1984, but those type of questions we want to try and keep off track. There's no point. So any questions you've had, favourite game, favourite moment, particular lore questions, we can discuss, and we'll be more than happy to do so. Before we get to the kind of main Q&A sessions, we will start with the news. So the first bit of news, straight out of the new Biohaze website, which I just want to give a quick plug out to everyone. If you haven't seen it, go to it. The Biohaze website's had a whole new refurb, and I noted there the first bit of news is Biohazard The Extreme, an escape room coming to Universal Studios in Japan. Why can't these things come out where we are? I don't know, but it looks to be Resident Evil 2 remake based. Having just done a escape room and was woeful at it, I would love the opportunity to have another go in a Resident Evil themed one. Any thoughts from the team here?
Time they've dabbled into escape rooms, because I do believe they did a 7 one, didn't they, to promote Resident Evil 7, and that actually did come to the UK in London, so I suppose there's every chance if it's successful enough, we may see it.
My concern is that if you do one outside of Japan, it'll be not game themed, it'll be movie themed.
Selfish Gene's mentioning in the chat that there was a US one. I remember there being one for that as well. It's something that would clearly work quite well for the Resident Evil. You know, the whole kind of puzzle-solving elements and some of the ridiculous puzzles that are in Resident Evil would translate quite well, I would imagine, to the escape room setup.
Out of interest, Nick, why haven't the games trained you much better to, like, you know, open a Doom book and find a key or something?
I don't know. I did one at Centre Parks, and it was an interesting. It didn't appeal to my mind. My mind doesn't work in that manner, and it was just a bit too abstract. I think I need a bit more hand holding for these type of things.
You've got to remember that this is the same person who plays most of the games on easy.
That is true.
So
I've not done one of these escape rooms before, but I like the idea. I think it's a really great format, don't you think, for this kind of the tension and kind of the style of game that Resident Evil is, rather than, you know, sort of the more other attractions they've had where you kind of walk through areas where there are zombies and, you know, I think that like a shooting gallery. I think an escape room, I think, kind of would better bring that tension, you know, for the game.
Absolutely, and the one I did, you have like an hour and there's like a big ticking clock in the room, and so you do feel you're up against it, so that'd be quite cool. They could do a kind of almost like a Resident Evil 3 one, saying if you don't get out of here you're going to be nuked, which would be quite cool. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. We can try and pester Capcom to get it released over here in some manner, but it's only Universal Studios for a short period of time, from September the 7th until November the 4th. Next bit of news, Nintendo Switch news, folks. The release of Resident Evil 5 and 6 has been confirmed as October the 29th, but more importantly, there's a triple pack physical release coming. And how the world...
You say physical.
Yeah, I know. I was going to go, yay, at last. And then you read the small print, and you'll quickly establish that it's Resident Evil 4 in physical, with Resident Evil 5 and 6 being a download. There's pros and cons. People do like having physical release. I know Vito is a big fan of them, as am I. But there we go. So that's October 29th. It's not too far away.
I find it interesting how Jake is front and centre of the Resident Evil 6 box art for a change.
Hint, maybe?
Well, I don't know about that, but it just was interesting. It's like the first time I believe he's really been used to promote the game in any kind of way like that.
But yeah, it makes sense. He's like the lesser of the three males in that particular...
maybe it's just the point of difference between the characters that are also in 4 and 5, because they'd be a repeat. So I haven't seen the box art. Is it just him, or is it like him and Sherry?
It's just him.
Oh, wow.
They've split the pack into 3 lines, you know, so it's got two,
Yeah.
So there we go. Any Switch owners be picking up? How much is it? The releases are $29 still.
Yeah, my biggest problem is I don't play games really portably. You know, I don't have much chance to do any commuting where I'd be able to play it or anything. And the truth of it is, unfortunately, they are lesser ports. You know, if you've got the PlayStation 4 version, there's not really any real need to own the 3 again, unless you plan to have them in a portable capacity, that's all.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see if the Switch Lite does anything to, you know, really promote the portableness of it.
The problem consistently with a lot of the Switch ports is just what they call the Switch tax, and it's just the cost of manufacture, and in order for the companies to even make money on it, they have to be quite expensive. And obviously, it's been slightly controversial about the cost of these, you know, ports, considering the age of some of the games. It's like, then you look at it historically. I mean, Capcom's also released just the first Devil May Cry, and it's kind of the same thing. You know, a game that came out in 2001, so...
Last bit of news is that a Resident Evil 2 themed DIY Zombie Pro makeup kit is now available in the UK and the European Union. Oh yeah,
that's what we get. They get those escape rooms. We get a bit of paint.
£115, ladies and gentlemen.
What?
So quite pricey. And you know full well that when you come to do it, it will look absolute tripe. You will not make it look anywhere near as good as it ought to look. And you'll be like, wow, brilliant. So, yeah, I don't think there's been a US release for that. Okay, so that does conclude gaming news. So, moving on to site news. So, there's lots going on. First bit, we'll start with Stars Tyrant. You have been streaming again. Those tablets from the doctor aren't helping. And and I wanted to pass over to you because you've been streaming the quite brilliant Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3 HD projects.
Yeah, so basically anyone who caught the streams over the last few nights, we've been test driving the recently released Seamless HD projects. Now, Resident Evil 3 came out extremely recently, 2's been out a little bit longer, and anyone who caught the streams will know that the games are looking absolutely incredible. This is, in many ways, the remake I think we all really wanted. It, not essentially a reimagining, just the game looking as close to sort of modern as possible. The upscale work that these guys have used, it's a program using called Gigapixel AI, and the work it's done on the backgrounds, plus the addition of the work they've done themselves to add it to improve the backgrounds and make them as close to sort of high def as possible. It's truly phenomenal, and we're actually joined by Kyle in the chat today. He is the HD texture designer for the project. Certainly give it a go, and anyone who's looking to give it a try themselves, you will need a copy of the GameCube version in ISO format of both 2 and 3, and you can get it at www.reshdp.com, and then it's / either RE2 or RE3. But certainly give it a go, because it's the best these games will ever look.
Indeed, indeed. We watched with amazement, I think. Some of the textures look absolutely incredible, and I think a comment that I made, actually, and was that what I found incredible was new assets were being put in, but how well they blended in. They looked like that they were just there. It wasn't glaringly obvious, like almost like an RE item that's flashing, bright white to say, oh, item. This was in the pre-rendered backgrounds, looking absolutely superb, and as Sean said, it's the it's the remake a lot of us were hoping for. So that is definitely worth checking out, and on our YouTube channel you'll see Stars' playthrough if you want to have a little taster of what to expect, and some of the a lot of the time we're just staring in amazement. Sometimes there's just big pauses in the game whilst we look at particular camera angles, so feel free to check that out. That's on YouTube, and of course Stars will be streaming that on his Twitch channel.
Yeah, so we've done a run through of Resident Evil 2, and I'll try, if all goes well, to get Resident Evil 3 streamed this weekend.
Brilliant. So, other bit of site news. I've also caught the streaming bug and got something far worse. Umbrella Corps on physical release. If Resident Evil 2 HD is one end of this spectrum, Umbrella Corps is certainly on the other end.
Are we allowed to ask each other questions?
You can ask.
Why?
Why? Good question. So my Xbox broke, so I decided to buy a PS4 because I didn't trust Microsoft. And because I owned a PS4, I thought it almost obligatory to own every Canon item. And I just can't bring myself to download things because then I don't feel I own it. So I had to buy the physical release, which I got.
True collector, ladies and gentlemen.
True collector.
How much did you pay for this physical release?
For £38.
Wow.
Oh, Jesus.
I bet that's
You
more
really
money
are
than
a
you paid
sucker.
for the remake, isn't it?
Yeah, it was.
And here we were giving people crap about paying £25 for several movies, and you're paying 38 for just one really, really, really not so good. Yeah.
So on our YouTube channel you'll see my unboxing of it, which then leads quite nicely into my first playthrough. Apologies in advance, I didn't quite get the audio. It's the first time I've ever kind of really done it on the PS4 via Twitch, so it's a bit all over the place, but a really, really interesting experience of a game. Some bits I actually really liked, and I think me and JC Wesker had a lovely chat about where the Tricell facility was, and that was probably the highlight.
BB Mac has been in there and given you a massive burn in the podcast chat, Nick.
Yes.
That's very true too. That is so true.
You are blessed that Yoke isn't here at the minute.
Indeed.
You need to buy that original soundtrack now. Can't say no. We'll be like, remember that time you spent £38 on Umbrella Corps?
Deary
Jeez,
me,
Nick.
deary me. I know.
Jeez.
So, wrapping up some site news, myself and Romby, we finished our Resident Evil 5 playthrough co-op game. You should be able to find all 4 parts of that on our YouTube channel. That was fun. That was
It was.
It was good.
I was surprised that we didn't die as much as we expected on that last QTE, considering how much problems I had with it last time.
Absolutely, and for people unaware, it's not us, it's the game.
There is some massive lag issues that are inherent more to the PS3 version than to the later ports, where they seem to fix the way that the QTE sends back and forth between the two players. It seems like it only has to register locally first, whereas before it seemed to have to register both players successfully completing it before it would let you pass.
Indeed. But we get there in the end. The Wesker fight did take a long time, but it was good.
It wasn't as bad as the other Wesker Jill fight. That was...
Yeah, we sped it up.
I literally sped that up. That was...
But that was more of a test, actually. We did the test because we're going to try and play Operation Raccoon City as well. And
The cat's out of the bag now.
It is.
I've been keeping this from people for as long as I could.
We're going to have a go. 4-player co-op. There we go. We'll see how it goes. Final bit of site news was that I released an exclusive review of Lego Set 2236, Spencer's Office. That's on our YouTube channel as well. Nice little bit of fun for that if you are interested in my other interest in life, i.e. Lego. So you can have a good look at that and so forth. But I think that does conclude our site news. So we'll now move on to our main focal point, the Q&As. So hopefully people have got some questions. I can see some already come in. And now we're going to test our resolve with the technology as well.
Colin Evo's asked a couple of questions. I don't think we can ask. If you scroll up, you'll see those.
So Wesker's report, welcome, thank you. His first question, is Gaiden canon? I'm so pleased that come up because that does connect nicely and I can plug my Gaiden editorial, which is available on our Facebook page, links to that. So, thoughts, gentlemen?
I think once upon a time it was intended to be, but it never went beyond the intention. I don't think it was ever considered beyond a couple of nice ideas. There's aspects of it which were obviously linked into things like Wesker's report, but again, I don't think they ever really got off the planning phase with it, and the game was developed and released regardless.
I think I'd agree to an extent. Certainly from my kind of reviews, looking into it and the things I've been able to dig out and cite and so forth, it was clearly intended at some point to be canon. There's too much involved. Now, whether it is now is a very different question. I happen to think it does link and work quite well still, but a lot of people will say quite rightly that the whole game has basically been remade in various other forms, such as Revelations 2, Dead Aim, Revelations 1, and so forth. The whole game is there in a nutshell, but is it canon now? Now, I don't think it's ever explicitly said it's not. So the eternal optimist in me says it could be.
I think we can sort of focus in terms of what the intention was to begin with, more so on the actual events of the game, to determine whether it breaks the series canon. And, obviously with RE4 and Leon turning up, okay and unaffected, I think that's the point. And it interests me that the beta for RE4 3.5 had Leon, starting the game pre-infected,
yep,
which was, quite a nice link to, perhaps that was a link to the end of Gaiden.
It was, and I think what is lost, there is an assumption, I think, in the community that the end of Gaiden is ridiculous because it ends up with a BOW pretending to be Leon. The end of Gaiden, the end of Gaiden kind of suggests that it's a shape-shifting BOW, but actually if you play and monitor Lucia's powers, which really is the key here, there is absolutely no way, in my opinion, that the Leon at the end can be the shape-shifting BOW. There is plenty of opportunities for her to have detected that it was, and she doesn't because he's not there. And she does the exact same power detection when they go into the boiler room, and she goes, "That's not the real Leon," and so forth. and she says that and so forth. And I personally think that the Leon at the end is just Leon, but he's been infected, which again links up with 3.5. His blood colour has changed, but he's just infected. That is my theory. And the game hints that that is actually what should happen, as opposed to the shape-shifting BOW.
I still can't get past the title thing. I mean, the whole purpose of the title when it was announced is essentially was saying it was a side story, and they didn't announce anything else as a side story up until that point. And at the time, everything was supposed to be what it was within canon. So why would you explicitly point this out? I mean, internally, maybe the design went back and forth, and then Capcom said, no, this is what we're going to title it because we want to specifically say this. But I don't think I've ever considered it canon. Yeah.
Well, we will be having a Gaiden podcast at some point, so we will. I know. Yeah. Well, this is what happens when I'm in charge.
Yeah, no.
It's my year as president. You see, we operate like the EU.
I will be relatively. I'll bite my tongue for most of it.
So thank you, Wesker's report. A teaser. We'll now hand over to Selfish Gene, just to make sure he's there. I've unmuted him. Selfish Gene, are you there?
Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah, so welcome Selfish Gene. Now, for anyone who doesn't know, Selfish Gene is from Australia, the land of the Great Barrier Reef, kangaroos, koala bears, and an unlimited supply of sandpaper. That's a cricket joke. Oh, I thought that would get someone. And we're on cricket.
Yeah, no. Even I'm like, don't bite.
Can't it be New Zealand's turn this week? Just give me a week.
It was.
It was.
You missed it at the start. Yeah,
No,
rubbing in the Cricket World Cup. Yeah.
We don't win a lot in England, so we'll celebrate it. Anyway, welcome, Gene. What is your question for the team?
What is the best thing you've ever spent £38 on?
Not Umbrella Corps, that's for sure.
Oh dear.
No, that wasn't my question. So I was going to ask,
Oh, no, it's fine.
what do your wives or significant others or children think of your Biohazard mania and fandom?
Oh, that is a good question. I like that. That's a bit offbeat, but not too bad. The wags. My other half, she does not understand it in the slightest. She thinks it's a complete waste of time, and I have to justify any purchase for Resident Evil, and she doesn't normally know about what I buy. So when Umbrella Corps did turn up, I just, it's cheap, eBay, yeah, £10, yeah.
Lying. There we go. That explains a lot.
Crazy.
Yeah.
But she's never. I don't think she's ever sat down and actually played any of the games. She's not really into gaming, so it's not really her thing.
I'm actually going to sideline this question too. Sorry, Gene. Is there any of your collection's interests that she does share? Like
No. No. Opposites.
So it's just part of that.
Pretty much in the same boat. I'm gently trying to get my wife a little bit interested in it, but she's watched me play the games, but beyond that, she doesn't see anything that I spend on my collection.
Stars?
Me and the good lady have absolutely no shared interests in anything at all, apart from like nights out and drinking. When it comes to entertainment, like we don't like the same films, we don't watch the same TV programs, and she certainly has no interest in gaming. But the good thing is, she just leaves me to it, so she's absolutely not bothered at all in what time I choose to spend. And because she's a teacher and she spends a lot of time planning and things, I have free time to be able to do it without protest, which is really nice. In terms of has she ever shared an interest in anything, when the VR version of Resident Evil 7 turned up, she thought that was momentarily interesting until the moment she got a real nice close-up of Ethan getting his hand sliced off with a chainsaw, and then she decided that was enough, and never looked back since. But no, other than that, she has no interest, but she's not bothered at it either. So, best of both worlds, if you like.
Best of both. George, what about your son?
It's a bit of a sore subject for me, because it was actually my cosplaying as Jill that was the final straw for my wife and left me because of my obsession for Resident Evil. And Jacob, basically, up until Resident Evil 7 came out, was kind of a mix of, I think, bemusement and sort of pity. He was a big video game fan. I kind of tried to keep him off video games, as long as I could. But I think at that time he was playing Halo and stuff. So, he kind of got into it with Resident Evil 7. And what's interesting, when the HD remasters being around, that kind of managed to play those, because he always just kind of looked down at them as, retro old games. And, he became a big fan of Remake, actually. which is great. So it's good, but makes me feel very old that I've got a son who's playing this game legally, can play them. I can't even.
Can't even stop him. Well, thank you, Gene. That was an interesting question.
That's all right. I'm glad. A quick one before I go. Don't have to justify it, but your favourite save room.
Oh, I see. That's favourite save room music. Anyone take the floor? Who wants to go first?
I was having this conversation the other day with someone who wasn't a particular fan of the RE3 save room music, which almost on the verge of saying for the RE3. But then, and then I think it was Stars that mentioned Dead Aim, which again is wonderful as well.
Dead Aim's quite a subtle one, I think.
Yeah, Dead Aim's is nice. I think Resident Evil 2's is like the absolute classic, but I think my favourite is probably Dead Aim's, because I just find it so unusual and interesting.
Yeah.
But the quintessential one is probably the Resident Evil 2 one.
I recently, because I've just bought Origins Collection, I started playing on Zero again, and I was reminded how great the Zero one is as well.
See, that's the thing.
They all bring a certain quality to
Zero
it.
is brilliant.
Yeah. They all fit their respective. I mean, I even really like the merchant save room theme in Resident Evil 4. It's a really unusual one as well.
BB Max mentioned 7, and I think 7 has a very distinct charm.
Yeah, I love 7s as well. I like them all in their own ways. But yeah, the highlights for me are probably 2 and Dead Aim.
Everyone Sean's mentioned, I want to say, is my favourite. I'm just gonna. But if I had to plump for one, it's kind of in reflection of the game that really inspired my passion for Resident Evil. I'd say that the remake, the save room from remake.
Cool. Well, thank you, Gene. Before that, there's a couple of good questions there. I hope that's answered your burning issues on what we like and what we dislike. So, Wesker's report. Oh yeah, what do you guys think of the possibility of Dr. Wesker still being alive? This is Clive Wesker, who I christened last podcast. It is very possible he could be very old, or she could be very old. This is the original Wesker from the Wesker Children program. There's no recorded death of that person. Do you think that would be a good way of bringing the Wesker name back? Is it needed if they've got old Jake?
I don't think that'll be a plot thread that they follow, in all honesty. You can see the Alex storyline in Revelations 2 is the end of the Wesker Children. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think that's the whole reason why Revelations 2 exists, was to close that book, which then makes the little coda ending all the more frustrating.
That's exactly what I was about to say. The fact that it essentially isn't over, but everything else is over. It's kind of not.
Yeah, so there's a lot of anti-Wesker sentiment.
Wesker's come up a lot lately through the most unusual source, but some people, I personally don't, are seeing this art of melded Wesker with Ouroboros from the new card game Teppen as being a hint that we're going to see a clone or a return of Wesker in the future, and I just hope that's not the case.
We shall see. We shall. Yeah, they've been quite good at those Teppen things. I'm trying to keep on board with that. Well, that was a nice question. We have another question came in from Reese, who unfortunately was unable to join us live. But he says, "What would you like to see in any Resident Evil 3 remake collector's edition?" He personally likes to see a Jill or a Nemesis figure to go with the Leon one that came out in Resident Evil 2 for the collector's edition. And anything you'd like to see in potential DLC or alternate costumes?
That's a good question. I really have
It is a good question, isn't it?
The statue thing, yeah, if you were going to do it, I think you would definitely have to have the Nemesis in it. I can't see it not being a Nemesis. It would have to be them both, wouldn't it, really? It'd be like a battle scene kind of thing. It would be quite large, and you'd imagine Nemesis with like his tentacle out or a rocket launcher or something, again, it depends on how they redesign the character for the remake, how it looks. God, costumes, good question. It would be more interesting, I think, pretty much most of the costumes that were already in the game being remastered for the new version would be kind of cool. So all the ones that they put in, was it the Dreamcast and PC ports, it's like 8 different costumes.
Yeah, that's quite a few.
Something like that. That would probably be the base set, would be a really good thing. But gosh, it would just end up, I know it'll just end up with a lot of the, they'll obviously be like, oh, well, if they change your outfit, then everyone will expect the classic outfit from the PS1 version, from the original PS1 version, and alternatively a PS model version, just like they did with 2. Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question.
I could see them doing every version of Jill costume, so Revelations, that kind of RE5 one, that could be, people would like that. What about DLC? I'd like to see, maybe not DLC, just the proper Mercenaries, the original Mercenaries, a kind of remake of that. I wouldn't want that ignored, because that was fun.
I think the costumes, I'd like to see them do what they did with Rebecca in Zero, where it gives you every single appearance she's ever had.
Yeah.
I thought that was a real masterstroke. In terms of DLC, classic music pack, Nick, maybe. Be a good one, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that would be a good one.
In terms of goodies, I'm a sucker for little things like the replica precinct keys. But what I would really like is a fully realistic to scale in like a genuine leather wallet, Jill's Stars card. I just think that would be and badge. That'd be a real nice collector's item.
Yes, that would be good. George, any views? Any comments?
In terms of goodies, I'd love to have like a replica Jill's Diary. We've got the wonderful map with remake of the Spencer Mansion, and just have like a little booklet of all the files as you get them for Jill's Diary. I've never really been into costumes too much, as a bonus. DLC, little alternate route for Dario Rosso, maybe. His journey into with his family. There's an interesting story in one of the Biohazard comics where you get Dario Rosso effectively abandoning his wife and daughter. So yeah, I mean, obviously the obvious one is Carlos, sort of a Carlos DLC, but
Brad scenario.
Yeah. So yeah, that was what I was going to say. I just thought about that. I was like, yeah, Brad would be an interesting one, and obviously, yeah, just the
be tragic.
Yeah,
be tragic. Well, thank you, Reed. That was a really good question. Actually, got us all thinking. Right, the next calling goes to JC Wesker.
Evening, everyone.
Hello, welcome.
How art thou, sir?
Not too bad, Sean. Yeah, I'm in the field of greatness here, I guess.
If you guys recognise the sound of JC there, he's one of the heroes of Raccoon City and indulges this silly outbreak obsession we have of making it really hard for ourselves.
we do try, don't we?
Yeah.
Everyone's favourite Resident Evil fan from Bristol.
That's including GT, of course.
JC, what is your question?
Yeah, just pretty simple one, guys. I've always touted myself as a big fan of artwork and soundtracks and all that, and I know we touched on that, or you guys did a short time ago. But basically, what's your favourite piece of artwork and favourite piece of music from the series? So obviously extending beyond Savory.
Romby, do you want to start?
I think it'll definitely have to be tracked from probably the original Resident Evil 2, but then I'm having that same problem where I go, right, which one am I going to pick? I think still to this day it's probably my favourite soundtrack, at least I can say that much. Other than there's a lot of good soundtracks, but that one's still my favourite overall. It's just the right tone. Artwork, that's an interesting one too. I know this is probably weird. Like, are we talking about promotional artwork? Are we talking about in-game? I don't know, but like promotional-wise, I always remember being quite the Nemesis one that they released with him on the street holding Brad was always such a great iconic image, I thought. But there's just again, that's such a wide. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll go first. Yeah, that's great. And then I'm still like,
you can come back later if you think of more. It's okay.
Yeah, I think if I think of more, I'll come back. Someone else will probably mention something, and I'll be like, yep, that's perfect. That's a good one right there.
I'll butt in now then, because I've got a couple of definitives from my point of view. My favourite, probably unsurprisingly, is the kind of Aqua Ring music from the original Resident Evil game. I think it was the moment, I think, when I was first playing the game, and I thought, this is incredible. And I still hold that music very dear to my heart. Both remake and the original are superb, so that will always be my favourite. In terms of artwork, I've always had a soft spot, generally, for the Survivor artwork. There's something about the kind of, it's almost like a hand-drawn, I'm talking about like the kind of like the renders and things like that. There's something about the hand-drawn images that, I don't know, it looks so different at the time. And considering the whole game is based on, models from Resident Evil 2 and 3 and so forth, I don't know, I just love the artwork, and that was stuck in my mind. Also, the Deadly Silence artwork I think is pretty good as well. They're, again, quite lesser known ones, I think, but they've always been my highlights. Sean?
With regards to artwork, I always like the more sort of subtle designs in the series. So actually, one of my favourites is the one that I used for the stream last night, which is the Resident Evil 7 artwork with Evelyn stood in front of the house in shadow. I just think it's a really exquisite image which sums up the game quite well. But in terms of music, I would probably say it's going to be something like either Third Time's a Charm from Outbreak, which is the final Thanatos theme, the Outbreak main theme, which I've always considered is the theme for the series. And I really like, as a boss fight, I really like Winds of Madness from Resident Evil 5, which is the Wesker fight, and was the same piece of music they used in the Play God trailer.
Some good stuff. What about you? You said, JC, You like Birkin G2?
Yeah. I mean, pretty much anything off of 2 is typically at the top of any list of anything. But yeah, I think of 298. It was always the image of the liquor, and in particular Birkin 4. I've nothing's ever really surpassed those.
That's interesting with 4. What about G4 that tickles your fancy?
I'm not sure. Maybe it's I don't know. It's a quadruped, and the others aren't. I'm not really sure. I think, to be honest, what probably sealed it was if anyone remembers those Palisades action figures from the early 2000s, and there was obviously several of them, and one of the last ones to be released was Birkin 4. So to actually have like a 3D physical version of that was like, well, I'm never going to see anything better than that. It's just fantastic.
Bit of a disappointment in Remake 2 then?
Yeah, I think all of the malformations bar 4 were pretty good. 4 was a bit of a disappointment.
And in terms of music, you've said Wreckage of the Mad Experiment.
I threw that one out. Yeah, so I was obviously looking forward to that last night on Sean's stream. I think, again, pretty much anything out of 2 is always going to be up there. But I think just to be sort of different from just throwing out like a save room theme, I think Wreckage of the Mad Experiment was always a pretty good one for me. And I think I mentioned in the chat as well, like I remember way back when in the late 90s trying to download this single file on dial-up for what felt like hours, and this was the track that I wanted.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, JC. Those are some good questions. Rob, have you thought any further?
I can't pick a specific thing from RE2. Honestly, it's still one of my favourite soundtracks. But I will agree with the artwork stuff, because especially when they added the artwork gallery for 2 on the PC and later the Dreamcast, the artworks in 2 were very, very well designed.
I mean, we just talked about the save room music, but I think probably the marshalling yard. I think Sean mentioned it the other night, and just for me, that's just pure kind of. And I'm not a big sort of, zombie Romero sort of fan. I didn't really come to the series as a big zombie film fan, but just I don't know. That kind of makes me think of kind of those shopping malls, and just I don't know. It just reminds me of those sort of zombie films, and I love it. And it just feels like you're really desolate and alone as well. Favorite artwork. I like the shots of sort of outside the Spencer Mansion. I mean, actually, something that Sean mentioned on his stream. There's where it is, but when you're, I think in RE3, there's a shot early on the streets of Raccoon City where you can just see the vastness of Raccoon City, and you can kind of see these spiraling sort of tower blocks in the distance. And something that was similar to that Sean highlighted on the RE3 Seamless stream. Well, Sean, it was a shot, wasn't it, of kind of the mountains, and where was that?
Oh, it was the marshalling yard in RE2 last night.
Okay, yeah, no, that was a great shot.
The upscale really brings out the depth of the shot with the moon in the night sky, so you can actually see like where you are in the foreground. You've got like the marshalling yard illuminated, and then like some pylons, if you like, and then way out in the distance you can see what you presume to be the Arkley Mountains and stuff. And just the sense of depth and scale to it, it's really impressive. It's kind of nicely illuminated by the moonlight.
Oh, well, just randomly, quickly, there's that shot, I think, is it fan art? I'm not sure if it's from Umbrella Chronicles, where you've got Richard injured with his sort of sitting up against the wall with Rebecca knelt by him.
Oh, that's a good shout, yeah.
Yeah. I do
That's Shinkiro art, I think, who is a famous, I think it used to be an SNK artist, and he came over to Capcom.
Okay.
Is it the one with Rebecca covered in Richard's blood? And she's sort of crouched by him, yeah.
She's crouched, kind of comforting him almost, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's an artist who's called Shinkiro, I think his name is.
Well, thank you, JC. That was a good question. Appreciate your time and support and coming in. Stick around, JC. You may be needed later on. That's all I'll say.
Will do.
That's all I'll say now. Thank you very much. Our next question comes from Colin Evo.
Hi guys, I'll try and speak slow so that you can understand me.
What language are you talking, Colin?
Scottish, mate.
I'd like to say, before Colin starts, we'll say thank you, because he helped me set this up and do a bit of guinea pig testing, if you like, to try and make this recording session possible. So thank you so much for that, Colin. So, far away.
Okay, originally I was going to ask you what your favourite monsters type creature was and why, but what I would actually like to hear from all you guys is, what is your Mount Rushmore of ARI creatures, so the 4 top creatures that would be on your Mount Rushmore, and why?
The Mount Rushmore of BOWs.
Quality. No.
Superb. Sean, you can start this time. Give some time for Rob to think.
I don't know, guys. What do you think? Do you think it's fairly self-explanatory? I was never really bothered about the Tyrants much in the first game, but when the 103, as I described on the stream last night, actually, when the 103 leaps out of the melting pool or whatever, and it's on fire, double claws, it roars, the operatic music sort of behind it, I was just like, this is one of the coolest things I've ever seen in a video game. And now I've got to run like fuck from it, really, really fast. And that sort of stuck with me through the games. I've always found it to be a real highlight every time the Tyrant has turned up in the games. And they had a really long hiatus, and then we got some really embarrassing entries like the Ivans, which didn't really work for me at all, with their silly visors. And then Damnation came out, and I quite like Damnation as a movie. I quite like how sort of self-contained it is, but nothing prepared me to just how awesome the Tyrant sequence was going to be at the end of that movie. I think the final act of Damnation is absolutely wonderful, and I think it's the only time in the series we've really seen what like a Tyrant can do, like unrestricted from like game mechanics and things, just simply how powerful one could be and how you would be absolutely fucked if you were to come up against one. You'd be ruined. So that's always been, it's always been a Tyrant for me every single time, but the best one is just the 103 in Resident Evil 2. And it makes it all the more disappointing that I feel the Tyrant in Remake 2 is really badly realised. I don't like the sort of wrinkled face it has. I don't like the hat, and I certainly don't like the mutated version of it at the end. I just think it's a real letdown. I was quite really disappointed by the Tyrant in. I like the mechanics around the Tyrant in the Remake too, but just everything about its appearance is just all wrong.
Well, of course, Colin's question is that the Mount Rushmore, there's 4. There's 4 places on Mount Rushmore. So
you'd be talking about the iconic ones, wouldn't you?
So you're going T103, or the Firant, as it's now been dubbed on the chat.
I'd have the Tyrant. You've got to put a Hunter there, because they're the iconic villain, aren't they? You know, the sort of main villain, if you like. You know, the standard enemy. I think everyone finds the Hunter unforgettable. Come back to me. I don't know what the other two would be. I don't know. Outside the Tyrant and the Hunter, you've obviously got the zombie, but would you really want that on a monument?
We'll come back, George. What would you put on your Mount Rushmore of BOWs?
Firstly, thank you for allowing me the time to Google Mount Rushmore. And to answer this...
Hang on, sure we weren't looking up NASA astronauts again?
And, I've never been a particular fan of the Tyrants, just in terms of I think a lot in the game just aren't as demanding to defeat as they should be. But Sean put up a great case just now about on fire. I mean, thirsty hunters without a doubt. They're just so, and I think RE0 actually came almost close to kind of matching them to primates that just jump out at you, because I'm a fan of those. But the first of all, the hunters, and I love the hunter elites in a little bit cartoonish looking in Dead Aim, but just the way they leap out at you. Yeah, so hunters first. And what are they called? The Eliminators in Zero. The
monkey, the Eliminators,
yeah. I just because I think it was almost very hard to kind of match the hunters, and I think they came quite close. I like those. Yeah, I'll let someone else answer. I'm thinking of others, but definitely those two.
Okay, Rob?
I'm definitely going to put a liquor on there, probably the original RE2 one. I remember it just being such a massive impact. Probably also the RE1 Hunters. They're just simple designs, but so memorable. So I can't really get past either one of those. I was going to put a Birkin form there, but now I'm kind of like, Nemesis. So yeah, this is really tough. This is like, you can get a couple, and then you're like, if I got 2 slots left, what am I gonna? I'm a big fan of the Hypnos Tyrant as well. Like, I was
gonna say the Hypnos Tyrant. That was mine.
Oh, I'm sorry, Nick. I just think the design, like the morphing design and the way it gets bigger and stuff, is quite cool. Yeah, this is a tough question. I don't know. I don't have a fourth one yet. I mean, I could pick from about a million different things, and I still don't know if I'd be happy with my fourth pick. So. Yeah, that's as far as I've got.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose there's a slight difference between iconic creatures, so something like a Licker or a Hunter. I would have the Neptune, standard. I would have a Hypnos Tyrant, third mutation, the third mutation, the final one. I think that is a glorious piece of artwork, and because he's got that kind of venom look, hasn't he, with the tongue kind of sticking out. That was always my favourite Tyrant out of all of them. After that, I would probably put Nemesis. It's the only creature that has his name in a title of a game. And and the fourth, Crimson Head Elder, maybe.
Oh, good choice.
Would you put a Birkin up there?
I'm not sure I would. The reason I say Crimson Head Elder is just because it kind of ticks a couple of boxes. It's a zombie, but it's almost like a pathway between old Resident Evil and new Resident Evil, in the sense that before we had Remake, everything was a bit slow and lumbered, and that's what zombies do. And then Remake came along and introduced the fast zombie, and ever since then the kind of basic zombie has got faster and more intelligent. So it kind of represents a kind of turning point, in my opinion, with the series. So I'd probably do that. So it kind of covers a zombie base of being an iconic creature, but also it kind of represents something else. It's a subtle hidden meaning.
I just have to add as well, I mean, in terms of backstory and invulnerability, design of the actual enemy, and even in terms of their significance on the series canon and the virology, Lisa Trevor, without a doubt, for me, Mutation.
Yeah, it's a huge part of the lore. Just to expand upon that, we'll get back to you, Colin, as well. Kendo's Mean Shop, who's joined us, welcome. He's obviously taken the lead when it comes to the BOW questions and just asked, what's everyone's favourite Hunter variant? Because George, you were talking there about the Hunter Elite, so we'll quickly latch that question onto Colin's. It's a shame. I really like the design of the beta, but it's the 121 beta, but I always think it's a bit rubbish. It's hard not to pick the original from Resident Evil 1, isn't it? The original 121, mass-produced. It still looks the scariest. It's the deadliest. And it just makes all the right noises.
You're talking not remake, the very original.
I'm talking very original. It just
I agree.
invokes fear beyond a level that's ever really been replicated, except maybe the Lickers, maybe in Remake 2, I think did a really good job of getting close to it.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with the Licker is once you know how to sort of walk around and you actually nullify their threat altogether, whereas there's literally nothing you can do except do battle with those hunters, and they're harder than most of the game's boss fights.
They can be 2 or more together, it's problematic.
I'm happy to include the Tick as a canon variant, to be honest. That's one of the things from the Saturn version I absolutely love. In answer to Kendo on the chat there.
Your favourite Hunt is still the original 121 as well?
The 121A.
Yeah. George, are you sticking with Elite, or do you have...
I mean, I do love the Elite, but it's always just concerned me that thing, they do kind of look a bit manga, almost like they're smiling at you. Did you mention it, I think, in the past, Nick? It's just incredible, almost feel like I'm in the film Alien, when you just can hear that clicking noise, and you just know it's there, and I think that's just just wonderful. None other after that came that can just match those. So I think the ones from Remake, without a doubt, are always going to be the best, just because of that clicking noise that is just wonderful, and there's just the ferocity as well.
Yeah, I think their appearances across the series as well are really cool. Like the Outbreak. Is it? Oh God, forget. Is it 125?
125R, yeah.
Yeah, I think this with the spines and everything looks really, really cool. The Farafello in Revelations looks amazing, and I can't believe I'm going to do this.
You are, go on.
But the Operation Raccoon City one, the Elite variant or whatever it's called in that, I honestly don't know its name. I don't study that game well enough, but I think it's like black and red in design. It does look quite cool.
Oh, I don't know that one. Oh dear.
You guys are very. I mean, I said it in the thing. I just think the original. I'm a massive fan of that. Same reasons you guys have. It's just that tension factor. Like it was the first time I clearly remember playing that game, and just the cutscene happened, and I'm like, what the hell's going on? And then this big hulking green thing comes through the door, and at first you're kind of like,
okay, yeah.
Oh, what's this thing? Like you've seen all these other weird creatures, and up until that point, everything has been based on something, you know what I mean? Like there was sharks, there was plants, there was zombies that were previously people, there was dogs, right? So everything was within the realms of something that was seemingly obvious to its origins, but this thing was the first thing in the game. You're like, what is this? It's kind of reptilian, but it's not. Like, is it, what is it? And then all of a sudden it attacks you before you even have the chance to really register it, and it's doing huge amounts of damage, and you're like, get it away, like what's going on? And you've got this small space, and I just remember going, holy crap. And of course, I died within
yes
seconds.
And you better hope you saved.
Yeah, which at that stage, I remember being the first time I had been relatively not skint on saving. I think I just saved just before leaving the guardhouse. And yeah, I just went, wow, okay, that's taking it to the next level. I'm coming back to the mansion. They're throwing new stuff at me. Cool. This is awesome.
It was a massive difficulty spike, wasn't it, back in the day? Yeah. And I don't think anyone will ever truly forget that first time coming back from the mansion. And most of us died because you just weren't expecting it. And most of us were on like probably yellow fine and got an instant decap, and you're just thinking, what was that?
And also noting the secret pathway it took. I go, ooh, don't remember that way.
Yeah, and it's just so fast too. Like everything up until that point had a reasonable pace. Like it wasn't the slow things. Like, the dogs are fast, but they kind of meander a little bit. Like they don't quite always jump at you. They run around a little bit crazy. But the hunters, they're straight into it. They run at you. They attack you. That's all they do. They don't have any meandering. Yeah, and they jump too. Yeah, perfect example as well. So yeah, huge. That was a huge impact for me. So yeah, definitely there is one.
Thank you, Colin. That was a really awesome question, which we kind of expanded upon. You've asked the question. I think we need to turn it back on you and say, well, what would you put on the Mount Rushmore of BOWs?
Tyrant version 1, Tyrant version 2, Tyrant version... I'm only joking. I don't know. There's a lot out there because obviously there's lots of bits that mean a lot to me. For example, the dog from the first one. It's basically that part of the game that got everybody really the first time that they played it, and running through the hallways. So that to me is iconic.
Yeah,
I would agree with that. Actually, that's a good shout.
The liquor again, as you said, just when you're going through the police station and you see that thing running past the window and you're like, what the is that? And then you go through and you hear the hissing, just coming from the ceiling. So I'd probably put that up there as well. The original Tyrant, just for the fact of just how epic that thing was and basically how much that meant. And probably I'll go with the Nemesis just because it reminded me of the Terminator. And that was about between 15 and 20 was round about the times between those games and things, and that's all the sort of stuff I liked growing up, and having this thing just coming through the walls, and I suppose like Mr. X and 2, but Nemesis felt a bit more terrifying. It just felt like you never knew where he was going to come. And then obviously if you play it now, you can pick up the music cues and things, but when you're younger you're just thinking, God, this is amazing,
I think make a really good point actually about that liquor scene in the police station being iconic, because as you're kind of walking around the corner you see it scattering, like what the hell is that? They tried that with Resident Evil 3, again with the kind of Jane Demos or Demos, whatever you want to call them. It just didn't have the same impact, did it?
No, didn't know.
But thankfully Resident Evil 3 had the Nemesis to kind of fall back on, but so it didn't matter. But it's those type of things in Resident Evil 2, and you mentioned the dogs, I just completely forgot about the dogs, just these proper iconic moments that we all love. So thank you so much, Colin. I really appreciate
thanks for having me.
Ongoing support and coming on. It's great. So stick around, as I said to JC, you may be needed later.
That sounds ominous. But thanks, guys.
Cheers.
I just want to shout out one of the new guys on the Discord, because anyone who puts their username as the real Ark Thompson, that guy knows where it's at. So shout out to you. Well done.
He gets a thumbs up.
I'm friend requesting him right now.
Okay, so the next question we had, someone sent anonymously to our PU podcast at hotmail.com, and this goes back to a bit of news that we forgot, so we can focus on this. So, hello guys, with the announcement of and the release of the Biohazard Valiant Raid trailer, what are your views on this? Will it be canon? And just to touch on the news element, that's coming out next week, July 19th, to the Plaza Capcom Ikebukuro Amusement Centre.
Do you mean tomorrow, Nick?
Oh, it's tomorrow! God, yeah, wow, tomorrow, yeah, not good dates. That's come out tomorrow at the amusement centre. 2,500 yen. I don't know what that is in real money, but there we go.
In real money.
Yeah. So there we go. So that's Biohazard Valiant Raid, as I think I mentioned on the...
Just so you can be happy with real money, 2,500 yen is approximately 18.50 in pounds sterling in your quote-unquote real money.
Thank you.
It's alright.
So, I cannot wait for Valiant Raid. I really hope it's canon, but I don't think it's going to be.
I don't think it will be, and it'll be based on RE2 remake anyway, so then its own sort of separate bubble canon. I think it'll be no more canon. It is, for all intents and purposes, the sequel to Survivor 2, and it's an arcade-style experience. It'll be about as canon as that game is.
Do you think, if you're not aware, sometimes in Japan they get a lot of things. We've already spoken in the news about the new escape room, but they get an awful lot of other things. There's Biohazard, The Real, I think it's called, and The Real 2, which is all kind of like, you know, an experience you can be in Raccoon City, I think. Then you're chased by people dressed up as zombies, that type of thing. And all official Biohazard stuff. Some of them go into huge amounts of detail.
I mean, arguably this started way back when with 4D Executor.
Yes.
Oh no, there was even before 4D Executor, there was a couple of things too. So this is where I was gonna sorry to interject, but it's like I think my answer is in the sense that I don't know if any of them have really been canon except for probably the stage kind of production side. I think all these have all just been kind of offshoots, never official, kind of, or kind of in their own kind of general existence in the universe, but not really ever confirmed as such. So
yeah, I think we assume the experience is canon as well, although placing it is tricky, isn't it? That was the follow-up stage production they did about 3 or 4 years ago.
Voice of Guy is
It's
dodgy.
an interesting. It's dodgy. Yeah. What a concept.
Well, it kind of does undermine RE4-5 a bit, but if people know that there's all loads of these little experiences, and I'd love to experience them myself, but they've never, as you said, apart from maybe 4D Executor, but certainly the stage, have never really been part of the storyline. Now, the advent of VR has been quite impactful, I think, on Star Wars. So if you ever have the opportunity to play Secrets of the Empire, which is a VR experience where you can move around a bit, it's kind of like a cross between paintball and VR. It's absolutely incredible, but it is part of the storyline. You specifically are not, but you're in a group of stormtroopers or people infiltrating a Mustafar, and what you're doing forms part of the storyline. In exactly the same way, they've now released this episodic program on the Oculus Rift, I think it is. Again, you get to play it, and what's going on is canon. So I think there was a real hope. There was a real hope that that Valiant Raid would be canon, but as you said, it's obviously Remake 2 inspired. But I wouldn't rule it out just on that. I mean, even if they had the Tyrant, I know they've got Mr. X hat version Tyrant on board, but as long as that is relevant to the storyline. So if we are in an Umbrella lab in Europe, I don't know, or in America, it's a Chicago branch, 1999, it's all gone Pete Tong, and that's the Tyrant you see, I wouldn't have an issue with that at all. Anyone else think that? We've all gone quiet. We've all gone very quiet. George, any comments on Valiant Raid?
Was this question surrounding the trailer? Because I haven't seen any.
There's a trailer. It's got
a minute long.
Yeah, it's about a minute long.
Okay, so I seriously, all jokes, I have to apologise because I haven't seen the trailer yet. I've been a bit sidetracked by some Twitter ban recently. Sorry.
You have, yes, you've been very busy. Okay, so I'm looking forward to it. I'm hoping it will come out at some point, but there we go. But Stars, you're not optimistic on it's canon, but
We'll see. It might be a fun experience, and I imagine it'll be totally right before a PlayStation VR port.
Yes, and rumours today I've read that the PlayStation 5 is going to be VR is going to be completely wireless and so forth. So there's patents apparently pending on them. Things like that is what you want. It shouldn't be limited to Japan, but we'll see. We shall see. So that was a question from some anonymous person. So thank you, whoever sent that. Great. We now have a question from long-time fan, resident, friend of the show, Sonny Bauer.
How is everybody?
We're
Very
good.
thank you.
We're very good. Thank you for joining us. Now, so, as Sean gave a little introduction, hero Raccoon City, voice impressionist. On the flip side, he is from New Jersey, but, you know, whatever. That's a future... That's not my personal view. That's a Futurama joke, but there we go. Sonny, what is your question?
I'm wondering what the panel thinks, each individual one of you, how the lab scene in the first game went down. Who was there and what occurred? Because there's obviously a lot of different interpretations and opinions on which is canon, but canon or not, I want to think what you personally thought happened. Was Chris there with Rebecca? Was Jill there with Barry? Was it the combination of all of them? What do you think?
I think it's a combination of all of them, but I've always liked to think that Jill and Chris went down to the lab together and met the Tyrant at the same time. I don't like the idea of the canon being one of them was in a cell or whatever. I like to think of it as they both had their own pair-ups.
Yeah.
So Chris is with Rebecca, Jill is with Barry, and they sort of work weave through the story like that, and then by the time you get to the end of the game, you could even maybe at the end of the story, you get Barry's betrayal, and then immediate redemption and things like that. So thankfully, I don't know whether you guys have seen. There's a video that's circulating around YouTube, quite a recent one, where someone's actually gone in and re-edited the ending of the game, and it's the closest to canon we'll probably ever have.
Any ideas who did that?
I can't remember. The name was familiar. It'll come to me in a minute.
This is somebody who did it on the GameCube version, you said?
yeah, the remake. Yeah.
Okay.
Worth checking out. For what it's worth, I'm in agreement there with Sean. I like the idea of Jill and Chris battling the tyrant with Barry and Rebecca prepping for the self-destruct.
Yes, good champ.
That's how I would do it, and then they all kind of meet up on the lift and go, "Let's go!" And then they're all at the top, and four of them then take down the tyrant on the heliport with the help of Brad. Then it's all five kicking ass, taking down the monstrosity. I have them almost, I think, in my head canon, then when they get to the main hall, they then split up. So one goes left, if you like, one goes right, and then, as you said, they all have that kind of partner up and just kind of meet up. And they probably don't see each other at all until they get to the lab. But you can make up your own story. But that's how I would kind of do it. George, how do you have the ending of Resident Evil 1 unfolding?
Although the individual meetings you have, as Jill with Barry and, with Chris as Rebecca, are, sort of maybe more relevant for that part of the gameplay. Just for me, what cemented the fact that I've always liked to see Jill and Chris, and always imagine, like Star said, that they kind of, on an emotional level, they're coming down together to finally, meet the tyrant as one. I've always loved that, because the scene that kind of cements that on an emotional level for me is when Chris goes to save Jill, in the cell. And initially, because I hadn't played the original, I played Remake before the original, and so I'm presuming when I've unlocked with the MO discs that's going to let her out, and then you have that little scene behind, between the doors where she's still locked, and I'm thinking, at what point, am I going to get this key to finally unlock her? And almost thinking, because it's right at the end after the first encounter with the tyrant that I've missed the opportunity to do that. So, and the fact that with everything going on and the timer countdown, and Chris goes back and lets Jill out. So just for me, that cements me that they went down there together.
Rob?
I have to debate this idea. I like the idea, and personally, it would be, everyone's involved. I think that's essentially what they've tried to say, establish for canon, that none of the endings that we see in the game are correct, But the one wrinkle to the whole thing that really bothers me when I think about it, and this is me being a stickler for consistency, is that the battle between Wesker and Chris has always been quite personal. Like, Wesker blames Chris for the events at the mansion, almost, it seems, at least as far as like when you look at Code Veronica and stuff. But then obviously he's accepted his power, and sees like he kind of thanks him for what happened, which means it's almost personal, which means it feels more like it was supposed to just be Chris there, or Chris was like the main driving force, Jill wasn't the. And so that's the thing that throws the wrinkle to me about it. But then it negates Barry's betrayal, and which I think is such a really good, amazing event for that original narrative. It was quite a nice little twist, I guess, for lack of a better term. So in actuality, I'd like to believe it was 4, but then there are certain things that kind of come after that tell me I couldn't have it that way if I really wanted to be really specific and fickle.
Sonny, what about you then? I mean, obviously you've been editing it together to make it work. Personal view on it?
I don't know. Should I really say here, or should you guys wait for a certain project to be done in time?
Fair enough. That's fine. That's fine.
Everybody will be able to get to see it in video format in due time.
Brilliant. Well, we will leave it there then. Thank you, Sonny. I really appreciate that. We'll stick around because I've got a feeling you will be needed. Shortly. So thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. Great to hear everybody's perspective.
Okay,
Thanks, Sonny.
Slowly coming to an end. We've got a couple of questions. We've got one from the real Ark Thompson, everyone's new favourite friend on the Discord because of his love of Ark Thompson, super spy. He asked, "What are our expectations for Resident Evil 8? Would we like to see a continuation of the Ethan storyline, or back to the main series, or totally new stuff?" George.
Well, I've got so much affection. It's by no means a perfect game, but I've got so much affection for Resident Evil 7, for what it was trying to do, for what it did do, for its departure from 5 and 6, more of a traditional survival horror take. That I would love to see some kind of continuation that kind of cements even more the kind of that being a canon and relevant title. But as we know, Ethan is such like a placeholder, just a vanilla for us as the character to step into, that it's difficult to see how he could. I mean, Mia Winters is a far more interesting character. I doubt we're going to see any of the characters from that again. But then we're stretching it, aren't we? We're just simply with their ages alone, we're going to have another reappearance from Chris, or it's hard to say. My own personal view is I'd love to see some kind of continuation from RE7, and I imagine the only way that we're going to see that is perhaps Ethan or Mia. Although I accept that's highly unlikely.
I'd love to see Ethan back. I like the fact that he's just a normal character. It's very Silent Hill-esque. And I'd like to see his kind of character growth, to see what happens to him. I mean, even like Leon obviously becomes like 007 basically, but that's what makes his RE2 one so nice, because he is a kind of rookie cop. He's he's not the best, if you like, and Claire is what she's gone on. It's a nice story arc, and I'd like to see Ethan back again. But
I'd certainly like to, at the very least, see a continuation of that style that we got in RE7. Whether we get that because of the sales. Were quite disappointing, weren't they, for RE7?
No, they did right. They did right. Eventually, I think it was okay.
It did right at the start, and then it tailed off, but the overall seems to be quite positive. Capcom was happy with the sales overall. I think the cost of it was less than 6, so...
I would, in specifically to Relock Thompson's question, I'd love it to not have anything to do with the main characters. No Leon, but then I do want. Oh, it's awful. I want Jill back, and we need some fitting tribute to Jill in some way. So I don't know. It's one of those things. I'd love just to see carry on with Ethan and Mia, because I want to see Molded back, and I think they're a perfect mechanism to do so. Starstone?
As much as I love Resident Evil 7, I don't think we'll see Ethan again. I think he just seemed to be pleased to be surviving the events of that game. They may do a bit more with Mia, but honestly, I think that's more of a closed book. Not a Hero felt like it was designed to continue from there, if you like, and pursue a storyline with the connections and things. And we won't really know how the revision of the Not a Hero storyline will take until we get to what Resident Evil 8 turns out to be. With regards to returning characters, I only really want to see Sherry again, and maybe even Jake could turn up. I don't like Jake in terms of his heritage, but I thought as a character in Resident Evil 6, he and Sherry were fine. So I could quite happily see those two again in the title. Resident Evil 7 certainly felt like a reset, and they clearly had some ideas with what they wanted to do with the connections and whatnot. But like I say, we'll never truly know how much the rewrite of Not a Hero will impact on their plans for that title.
Oh, of course, because are there details out of what the original was going to be like?
If you remember way back when Not a Hero was first leaked and there was like a mission list that came out, the actual objectives and everything were quite different to what ended up in the main game.
Yeah.
There was a lot more white molded and things like that. And just the fact that they were implying that, you had the Not a Hero angle. Chris was now allegedly working for Umbrella, even if that was Chris, it implied to be Chris at all. But the boss at the end was originally supposed to be Clancy and not, help me, I'm having
Lucas.
Lucas. When you actually play the finished version of Not a Hero, you can tell there's been some massive retcons, because they basically explain away Chris working with Blue Umbrella in the opening file, and it's really quite half-assed and doesn't feel genuine. And then when you get to the final boss, which is now Lucas, there's a really weird, very awkward transition. When Chris first goes into that room, there's a really sort of strange cut to black, and then for some reason the creature's on the ceiling and then descends down, and it doesn't flow at all. There's been clearly some very strange editing going on there, and it's clear that Not a Hero was basically rewritten to clear up the Lucas storyline, and all the objectives, all the stuff from that early leak were all changed. I think there was even a file that was supposed to be in Not a Hero, which explained the E series and the D series, which I think was people called Dorothy and stuff like that. That's all missing now. So I just feel it's such a shame, because there was so much hype for Not a Hero. There was so much building up to Chris being with this Blue Umbrella unit, and I just don't feel they had the conviction to really go for it. And I think a lot of that was down to fan reaction.
I'd agree.
To how Redfield looked and things like that.
Rob, over to you with your thoughts on RE8. What would you like to see in it?
I kind of, I feel like the threads will be there, but I feel like the reaction to the Resident Evil 2 remake, and especially if they also pop a remake of 3 up before they even get to 8, to try and continue on that wagon, I feel will be the sort of same thing that we're just getting at with the Not a Hero, which is that it's based on fan reaction, and if the fans want to see classic characters again, then that's more likely what we're going to see. Yeah, it's not that the plot threads wouldn't continue, but the thing I think that's a bigger question about it is then which gameplay style does it go for? Because I liked 7's gameplay style because it was different, but I also did like the Remake 2 gameplay style, which was the first time it felt like traditional survival horror in a modern wrapper.
Yeah.
So I feel like, considering both games are on the same engine as well, it's not like you can just easily point to it and just say, oh yeah, that's going to be the one they go for. So I honestly don't know. That's probably the best answer I can give. I wish I had an answer. Like
it could go either one way, couldn't it?
It could really at this point go either way. It'd be more interesting. I think that the biggest tell for us will be what is the next thing that they do. Because if they do a remake 3 before 8, then that's probably a much more telling option. 2's been so successful. I mean, it sold very well considering the expectations. It's the highest rated game so far this year, Metacritic.
Yes.
Across all platforms, it's been wildly successful. So I kind of feel like if you compare that to the good success but not as great success of Resident Evil 7, then they're probably, if I was a betting person, I'd probably say it's more likely going to be in the style of 2, and that inherently probably means we're going to see more older characters return. But who knows?
Okay, 2 questions to go. Thank you very much, Ark Thompson, for that. We appreciate that. Second to last question from BB Mac. We appreciate your support as well, because you're a long-time listener and supporter, so thank you very much. He asks, who are our favourite characters, and what do they mean to you, or us, if you like? That's tricky. I think Stars will probably say Claire Redfield.
For the longest time, it's been Chris.
Has it? Oh, okay.
Believe it or not, yeah, Chris. Because obviously I like, deep, complex characters. But sometimes I just think storytelling needs a bit of a hero. For me, Chris was that for so long. I really liked Chris ever since the first Resident Evil, and then I imported Resident Evil 2 DualShock Edition just so I could play him again in the extreme battle mode. So his return in Code Veronica was a big thing for me. This sequence with him climbing the cliff with his bare hands with the music just felt like a true hero's return. And then I feel that being patient paid dividends with Resident Evil 5, because I really, really felt like that title and continuing the Chris and Wesker conflict. Because for so many years, that storyline was the sort of backbone of the story for me. You obviously had all the the global bioterrorism stuff, and you had the Umbrella storyline and it ending, and you got Leon and Krauss, but it was always Chris and Wesker. And the fact that I had to wait for so long for that resolution. And I like the fact that he does, as Sonny Brown mentioned, being a Sonny hero. I like the fact that he rejects that. I initially didn't like what they did with his character in 6, but I respect the fact that 6 ended up being a bit of a deconstruction for the character. I didn't really feel like he needed to be in it at all, because I felt his arc finished perfectly with Resident Evil 5. That said, whilst I wouldn't have wanted him to die at the end of 6, I really do think that he should have passed the baton on, and Piers became one of the new characters, sort of main characters in the series. Going forward, I'd like to have seen Piers and Sherry be effectively the new Chris and Jill for the series moving forward. But
okay, Rob?
That's a really good question. I feel like I should have been far more prepared for this, but it's not. It's off the cuff. Kind of got to think about these things. I think in the original game, I was always more partial. If I go back to the original game, I was always more partial to Jill's storyline than Chris's. I just always like that, and the continuing arc of Jill's been very interesting. I was a big Leon fan when 2 came out, but over the years, it's not that I dislike Leon as a character. I just kind of like what we touched on before. He's become like this super agent. You called him 007. I think it was Sonny called him John Wick-esque.
Yes.
It's kind of taken the sheen off him. My other issues with Chris in this is true of all the characters, but especially of Chris and Leon, is that they are quite often fit into the realm of what is needed for the story, whereas Jill, maybe Five accepted, is kind of always just been her own protagonist, if that makes sense to everyone. Like, you look at this, like, a perfect example I want to put out is, like, look at the place where Chris and Leon are at Resident Evil 6, and then look at something like Vendetta, where the roles are reversed. And it's just purposely for the narrative, you know, like, Chris is drinking in a bar in 6, and then all of a sudden Leon's is being a sad sack down the dumps drinking at the place that they find him. I can't remember what it is, restaurant, cafe, hotel thing. And it's not narrative driven by what character decisions, it's entirely about basing the story around them, whereas I don't feel like that's been the case so much with some of the other characters, which is surprising. I was actually thinking about this before, more of the female characters, because Rebecca seems to have a certain story to herself in the fact that she was like this rookie, and then you look at Zero as well. And then also, even when she does come back and say Vendetta as well, she's got her own importance, what she's doing, what she's interested in, which a lot of the other characters don't. They just have to fit the mold of whatever the game is going. So now Leon's an agent, now Chris is the spear sayer, now Chris is Blue Umbrella, now, you know, whatever. But I think overall, if I was going to pick one, it's kind of actually going back to what Nick thought would be Sean's one, which is Claire. Claire's been consistently my favorite character, I think, overall. I'm not always happy with the personality change, like, for example, in Rev 2, but the character's still relatively always consistently drawn. The type of personality type is generally the same. And even with recastings and changes in the design and all that sort of stuff, the character's probably
I'd agree.
stayed the same for longest.
I think Claire's been fantastic throughout. The only time I've had an issue with Claire was Remake 2, because I just think she's depicted to be so unlikable in that game. She's lost all the warmth that I think like Alison Court brought to that role. And, you know, you could just tell when I was playing through Claire B last night, people really resonated with that Claire, which I just don't think they do with the remake Claire at all.
George, favourite character? What character means the most to you?
The obvious one for me, George Trevor. I mean, I went for that Avatar because, you know, the backstory.
Yeah.
And I don't know at the time how brave it was for a video game to present such a particularly horrific narrative for, you know, a father and his daughter being experimented upon in that way. And just the fact that you read their files, you know, that goes with that, and the you read, you know, the desperation and sort of initial positivity or you know, with Jessica Trevor, you know, we've got to escape, and then, you know, from the perspective of her daughter, you then read that file, you know, the confusion why her mother abandoned her. Unless I can quickly think of another one, I'd probably have to go with George Trevor.
I think it's a good answer because it represents a different one. Obviously, the playable characters, and in terms of my opinion, I think the comments on Claire are probably is something I would agree with. I think she's been the most consistent throughout in terms of her character, and she has, I think, quite a clear character arc going forward, whereas with Chris and Leon, it's mainly because of Vendetta kind of ruined it, went back and forth unnecessarily in my opinion. But the background characters in Resident Evil is what really makes it, and George Trevor is a perfect example, isn't it? That you can almost follow his life, well, you do follow his last moments of his life, but it's like a microcosm of his entire tragic life, and you feel you know him, but you know, no one's ever really seen a picture of him apart from your avatar, which is from Sweet Home anyway, you know, and it's you feel that you're connected. Like Spencer, we knew so much about Spencer, and yet we never saw him until 2000 and whatever year.
9.
9. I was going to say 9, but I wasn't confident. I was going to say 9 until it came out. But we knew everything about Spencer. He just eluded presence because of the backstory. It's not just, oh, he owned the mansion. It's like, no. You know, we had everything about him, and so that's what's good about the series. So there's lots that can mean much to people. So thank you very much, BP Mac, for that question. That was good. And our final question. Apologies for anyone who does have other questions. I'm just noting the time, and we've still got one little segment to do. So the final question comes from Pundercracker or Lou. Lou, everyone. It's Lou from the old Project Umbrella forum. So welcome, Lou. Thank you very much. And he is a nice. As with all these things, a nice light-hearted question to end the podcast. Out of all the quizzes that we've done over the years, what one's particular question or moment on them each of you remembers the best?
Well,
there's been far too many.
May I?
You may.
So basically, as everyone expects, we have our own Facebook group to arrange the podcasts. It's basically the main podcast team. George Trevor's in there, and every now and then, one of us will bring up the infamous What was the question, Nick? I can't even remember. If I just say car manufacturers, everybody will know the controversy that surrounded that question, that answer, the revelation of Kevin Ford. Who's Kevin Ford, everybody? It just basically caused an absolute meltdown.
I just realised what you were talking about. I don't know where you were going with this.
If anyone goes back and listens back to that, and we do regularly in this chat, we're always sort of saying, randomly put this podcast episode on. My God, the quiz has reduced me to crying with laughter. It's just I can't even speak now. I'm literally reduced to the way I was trying to wrap my head around Nick's reasoning for the fact that he chose out of 3 Outbreak characters, David Ford and Yoko Suzuki, because their names.
Kevin Ryman.
Kevin Ryman's the odd one out because he doesn't have his name as a car manufacturer.
Yoko Suzuki, yeah.
Because I've only heard it back, I think, once.
Oh my God!
Which episode is this on?
34.
It's the Resident Evil 7. I think it's 34. Yeah.
I think it's 34. Well.
But you mean me and Mr. Spencer have actual meltdowns?
I'm crying.
We're trying to get. You have to think about it on the quiz. The quiz is quite tense. We're all trying to beat Batman because his lore knowledge.
Yes.
It's just incredible. And so when Nick asks us a question out of Yoko Suzuki, David Ford, and Kevin Ryman, which is the odd one out? You're thinking of right. Let's wrap my head around the canon. And the answer I came up with was, what was it?
No, I can't remember.
Clearly overshadowed.
It was logical. What it was.
Everyone was like, "Wow, that's a really tough question. There must be some real serious answer to that. I don't know what that. Why? Why would any of them be the odd one out?
Oh
Why?
yeah, it was Yoko because she's not a member of the RPD. That was it. That was planned.
Yeah. Which is also a legitimately correct answer.
And it's not just the fact that the answer required getting into Nick's head. But it's the fact that he just so proudly, you could just see him imagine him in his living room with his microphone, and he just goes, "Oh, no one's got this because no one has realised that it's car manufacturers," and you can just literally hear the air escape the room.
It was.
And not only did we have that, but then we had George Trevor's revelation that he'd Googled an answer.
Well, it's the same with Kevin.
I didn't think.
And got the character name wrong, which is where this Kevin Ford thing came from. So you've got like Mr. Spencer going, "Hang on a fucking minute, who the fuck is Kevin Ford?" And it was like, "Oh God, he's the astronaut." And it's like, well, how's NASA come into this? It just basically over the next 5 minutes, it spills into absolute insanity. And Nick disappears for some 3 minutes. In the recording,
I'm on the floor crying and with laughs, and it still does. It makes me laugh. So the chat JCUS has reminded us of the Mambo number 5 answer as well, which formed a similar sort of was it Monica Rita?
Oh God! Oh, you forgot about that one.
I forgot about. But people got it. BB Mag, he was bang on the money. He's like, got that one straight away. It's like, yes. See, there's madness. Logic in my madness.
Another question. I've got to do a shout out to Vito.
Yes.
Who, and you guys will have to remind me what it was from, but it was, what is the manufacturing brand for a laptop? I think it's indeed Generation. And literally, that shot where you can read the brand of the laptop is like half a second long in the entire movie. So unless you've actually freeze framed it, there is no fucking way you would be able to tell anybody what the manufacturer of this laptop is. He's specifically gone with a toothpick through that movie and gone, pause. Right, that name that's really blurry in the top left hand corner, that's going to be my podcast question.
How many bottle caps in RE4? Yeah, that was some absolute classic moments. I think you'll agree. I think actually we may, depending on how it is, when we reach 100,000 downloads, there could be a quiz thing coming out for that. So keep your eyes peeled. We're not that far off. But if that is not a segue to our actual quiz, I don't know what is. Thank you all very much for your questions. Apologies if you haven't had your question answered. I think it's been really good fun, so we may do another one in the future. But on that note, it is now time for our community special Neptune's Biohazard Quiz.
The quiz. A test of knowledge, especially as a competition between individuals or teams as a form of entertainment. usually hosted by a quizmaster.
Can I just ask, have you had all of these questions independently verified?
He doesn't even know the general knowledge stuff. Why is this man the quizmaster?
It's not going to be one of these quizzes, is it?
I think we should get another question, John. Don't you?
Already fallen into controversy.
Already fallen into... Yeah, well, that was to be expected.
I'm once again Nick is at the centre of that controversy.
Absolutely.
This is Neptune's Biohazard Quiz. Batman. Star Tyrants. George Trevor. Robbie McGregor. Mr. Spencer. Neptune Biohazard Quiz.
You guys are ready for this. This is going to be chaos.
So, what is special about this quiz, I hear you ask? Well, we have our usual batch of questions for our podcasters, but as this quiz is being recorded in front of a live studio audience, each podcaster will be granted a special lifeline. Oh, yes.
Ask a friend.
Yes, in true game show fashion, each podcaster can opt to phone a friend and ask someone who's on the Discord server, picking anyone either from our listening audience if they want to join in.
Can I pick Batman?
He's not on, unfortunately. He had to go earlier, unfortunately.
He did, so hopefully you'll pick someone who's listening and then they can join back into the chat, so no pressure on them. So... Quizzers, I will ask the questions as normal. If you want to use your lifeline, just say during the question part of the round. So if I'm, when I get to the end of question 2 or whatever, you say, Neptune, I want to use the lifeline for that one. I'll just note that down, and then when we get to the answer round, you can do it. You can only use your lifeline once, so use it wisely. So let's play. Clear those desktops. Open up Notepad. Question number 1. This is a brutal question. This comes from one of our members on the Discord server. I don't think he's here today. From Tyrannical T002. In Resident Evil Remake 2, what is the time on the second floor waiting room? Oh, brutal.
Can you repeat that? I was too busy letting my friend know that I need his help soon. So I was just messaging Selfish Gene to make sure he was still around.
So in Resident Evil 2 Remake, what is the time on the clock in the second floor waiting room?
Oh, right. Thanks, Vito. Okay.
That's from Tyrannical TW. So does anyone want to use the lifeline on that question?
No. I don't know. Because I don't know the answer to that one, so I might just throw it out to someone anyway.
Are you going to use it?
I don't know.
Logged. Stars can use his lifeline.
Can I nominate now then, so he's ready?
Oh, good shout. Yeah, go on, nominate. Yeah, go on.
You wanted it, Yoke. You've got it.
Yoke, you have been nominated. I will come to you. Let me know if you want to come verbally, and because I can see that you're listening. So, brilliant. Question number 2: who was Javier Hidalgo's main assistant in the purchasing of BOWs on the black market? Anyone want to lifeline that question?
Yeah, I'm gonna.
You're
can
gonna
I throw that over to my buddy down under.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh shit! He's just. Oh, you sent that too late. I'll withdraw that.
It's alright. No, we're not.
Move on.
Don't.
That wasn't logged, was it?
I hope no one's answering them in the chat. Don't ask me any of these.
No. Selfish Gene has definitely not sent me a message saying not to ask him that question.
No, fair enough. Okay, so does anyone want to use that lifeline on question 2? No. Okay. Question number 3. Sneak into a Louisiana ghost house is the Sewer Gators episode number what? For an episode number. Anyone want that lifeline on that one? Well, Sean, obviously you can't. So, Rob?
Yeah, I'll pick Sonny Bear since he didn't want anyone to ask him a question.
There we go. No pressure. Question number 4. How does Billy address Rebecca when she requests he wears handcuffs?
Sorry, Sonny's just gone, what's the question?
Well, we'll come back to it. It's okay. He'll get a chance to listen to it again. So question 4. How does Billy address Rebecca when she requests he wear handcuffs? George, do you need the lifeline for that one?
It's funny because I actually literally saw that cutscene yesterday, and I can only remember the first line. So I'm hoping you're going to give it to me on just knowing that little bit. So
We'll see.
I'll take it.
Finally, question number 5. What is the name of the university that Doug Wright works at before his fateful trip to Mahara Desire? George, you may as well use your lifeline.
Oh crap! Because I know that one, but I'm going to go back. Can Jean answer my Hagio Javage?
Number 2. Yes.
Yeah.
We're all good. We're all friends here. So
you'll have time to Google that.
excellent. So they are the 5 questions. What's that noise? Oh yes, we're in a very dangerous territory, making a welcome return to the quiz. It's non-canon corner.
Predicted it. Totally predicted it.
And because this is a community podcast, the community lifeline is now activated as well, where podcasters get to ask the audience. Yay! So this is a bonus question to everyone. I'll ask for your answers shortly, but there'll be a choice of 4 answers, A, B, C or D. Post them in the podcast thread that you've been doing so diligently throughout the podcast. Thank you, Yogi. And,
He's such a troll, isn't he? Honestly, why do you tolerate him?
And then we'll get the results, and then the podcasters can choose to listen to them or not, just like in that famous game show. So the question for everyone, including everyone listening, is this. According to the Biohazard passage slot, what was the temperature in the Arklay Forest on the 24th of July 1998? Is it A, 7 degrees? Is it B, 10 degrees? Is it C, 14 degrees? Or is it D, 20 degrees? That question comes courtesy of BSSA Arklay, so thank you very much for that. So, audience, you can consider your option. If you want to wait until we get to that point, I will then listen, see what answers everyone's put. So, with that, join us after this when we'll run through those answers.
My wife and kids, they always wait up for me. Even today, my oldest daughter. I'm sorry.
Welcome back to Neptune's Biohazard Quiz. Let's see how everyone has done. So question number 1. In Remake 2, what is the time on the second floor waiting room? Stars Tyrant had a lifeline. He wanted to use it. That's Yoke. Let's bring Yoke into it. Yoke, you are live on the Project Umbrella podcast, Neptune's Biohazard Quiz. Can you help your friend?
Okay, I believe it is 12:24.
12:24. That's confident.
No, fuck that. It's 1969.
He just can't resist it.
And Stars has lost the quiz. Bye, everybody.
Have you got a final answer for Stars Tyrant, Yoke?
Oh, 1969.
You got for 1969?
Yep.
Unbelievable.
Thank you, Yoke.
I was going to say, does he get the option to say he agrees with that answer?
Oh, he can, yeah. He can endorse it or not. So, Stars Tyrant, what is your answer? Are you gonna listen to Yoke?
Well, I actually think Yoke's got my back, and I think he secretly told me the answer there. So I'm just going to go for 12:24.
12:24. Interesting. Okay, Rob. Any ideas?
I just put 11:43 or something like that.
11:43. And George Trevor?
I don't know why, but I just had this vague memory of thinking, oh, doesn't that resemble similar the time that you set the clock in Resident Evil 0 when you find out the minute hands? I thought, I can't now remember, which I've now forgotten what time that was. It was 8:15, I think. My logic's going to bring me to answer 12:15 midnight, 12.
12:15. The answer, I mean, this is a difficult question. I'm going to give a point to the person who got it closest. The answer was 10:33, so a point to Rob there for getting the closest. Well done, Rob. Wasted lifeline there, Star Siren.
We'll give him airtime just to troll me even further. I can't explain how disappointing that is.
Question number 2 was, who was Javier's main assistant in the purchasing of BOWs in the black market? We'll start with George Trevor. You have nominated Selfish Gene. So you are live on the Project Umbrella podcast. Your question was who was helping Javier. You have 30 seconds to assist your friend George Trevor.
I've already Googled it. What should I do with this newly found information?
You should say whatever you believe the answer to be, and you tell that to George.
All right. According to ResidentEvil.fandom.com, the answer is Sergio.
Is he to
/ wiki / Sergio SERGIO.
Thank you, Gene. Thank you, Gene, for your input.
Thank you, Gene. Have a good day. I don't know if
Scandalous, isn't it?
George, what is your answer?
I mean, with all due respect to my fellow colleagues on this quiz, I think, was Gene being tongue in cheek there?
I don't know.
Did he really Google that?
Who knows? That's going to be your call.
Look, he's Australian, isn't he? And they never. So I'm going to say, on the basis that Gene didn't Google that, and he's been in the community long enough to kind of know his stuff, so I'm going to go with Gene's answer. But if it can be proven he Googled it, I retract it.
So there's a potential, if you are right, a potential rescind of a point later in future quizzes. Rob, what did you put?
I couldn't remember any. I don't remember that bit at all. I remembered Javier, and that was it. So I had no idea. I just presumed it was one of the members of the organisation, the Snakes organisation, but couldn't remember a name. So
Yoke's furious, by the way. Furious at a second re-emergence of Googlegate. Stars Tyrant, did you know?
Well, I mean, obviously now that the cat's out of the bag with fandom searches, I'd actually written Wesker because I knew the game or one of the files implies that Javier does stay in touch with Wesker after Umbrella's fall. So I'd simply just put Wesker.
Well, the answer is Sergio. So
No, I despite what people think, I do take the quiz quite seriously. So I think I'm quite comfortable with. Yeah, I'm quite comfortable with not being awarded that point unless Gene, feels necessary to kind of come back and say we've besmirched his name and that he didn't.
Gene is currently saying in the chat, Wesker was the source of them, so he says that he believes that's a valid answer.
Yeah, but Javier.
Ooh, controversy.
Hold on a minute, Gene's meant to be assisting me. Now he's giving the stars.
He's helping everyone.
Well, everyone gets their answer. But no, Javier colluded with Sergio, who was his man in Sacred Snakes, who helped. So I will give you a point, George. But if Gene comes back later and says that he did Google it, then we may have to rescind. So you may need double points at a later time.
I think. Do you want to put it out to the vote? Because I think my two.
Oh yes, Colin Evos agree. Let's put it to a vote.
Oh, is Gene still there? Sorry. Yeah, then I'd
say, should he get the point? Should George get the point?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely.
Fine, no point there. So the answer was Sergio, so well done, Google. Thanks, Gene. Question number 3 was, sneak into a Louisiana ghost house is a Sewer Gators episode what? Now, Rob, we'll start with you. You had your lifeline on this particular question.
I nominated Sonny, but he didn't even know what the question was, which is great timing. So can you repeat it one more time for him to hear clearly?
Sneak into a Louisiana ghost house is the Sewer Gators episode what? He's refusing to come on.
God, these online friendships are paper thin.
Yeah. To be fair, I did pick Sonny because he said don't put me on, and now he's saying don't put me on. I can't be that surprised. Of course, Joke would say that.
Oh dear, Sonny, you're live. Any answer? Any episode number?
John, get out of here.
Just give me a number, Sonny. That can be your...
JC Wesker goes at episode 1969. Please leave. No clue at all.
Guess the number.
Yeah, episode 7.
Episode 7. That's noted. So thank you, Sonny, for your answer. That Rob will use that.
Thank you for bringing me on.
Thank you, Sonny.
No worries. Thanks for the call. Rob, that was your phone a friend. I hope it helped.
So I'm allowed to agree or disagree.
You can
correct?
do whatever you like with that
I
information.
can do whatever I want. I'm going to disagree because it was a complete stab in the dark. I actually just wanted to guess the number, but I know it's 17.
You've gone for 17, have you? Sean, start out. What's your answer?
I went for 6. I had absolutely no idea.
Okay. George, Trevor?
No, it's funny because you just pay so much attention to stuff in RE7 and little details, but things like that, I suppose, because they're not kind of connected to like the horror or something, would just go right over my head.
I'm assuming all you see it on is the timestamp on the VHS.
I've no idea.
I saw it on there's a old file picture of it.
It's in the van, isn't it?
Yeah,
on
the pamphlet.
It's in the van.
Yeah.
Is it? Oh, right.
The only reason I do remember this is I just wanted to put Sunny on the spot because I thought it was funny. It's also the episode it referenced in the demo, I think, as well. It's not just in the main game.
So, George, you have a number for me?
I sort of interrupted before because I thought I was being asked just now. I was just saying it's in the van, but these are the details I don't notice. I've got no... Oh, just to guess then 7. Oh, no, that's
7.
what someone else said. So...
You're going with 7. Well, that's interesting. No, you can say that. Fine.
No, it's just to guess. But if someone already said that, no, I'll say 17.
No one said 7. Well, someone has said 7, but no one's given that as an official answer, so you can have 7 if you want, GT.
No, because I don't want to follow someone else. I'll say 17. Thanks.
Well,
so funny.
The answer is episode 17. I don't believe it. So,
thanks, GT. You said you wouldn't follow anyone, but you still followed my answer.
I'm really confused. I'm so confused right now.
Hang on a minute, that was exactly the same. I'm really confused as that famous question. the way it's
this is the
like,
new. This is so the new. Okay,
I'm having flashbacks in my brain.
Just to get this right. So my nomination person said 7, which he then said at 7. But I didn't agree with 7. I said it was 17, and then you said it was 17.
I swear to you, I didn't hear what Romby said at all. And the only reason I didn't want to go, and when Romby said I said 7, I didn't want people to think I'm cheating by just saying the same number that someone else has said. So I just the next number that sounds similar to 7 is 17. I swear on my son's life, I didn't know you then said 17. I just wanted to say any number that wasn't what you said, which you said was 7. I swear I did not cheat, Yoke, fuck off.
Oh my god.
You can't write this.
I swear to you. You heard Romby just say to me, I said 7. At no point did he then say, oh my god.
Right, okay.
Ark Thompson's reply in the chat is really amazing. Look at that.
Swearing on his son's life.
Oh god,
making a pasta.
Right. Okay. We need to draw a line under it. I'm going to give the point to Rob because 17 was correct, and I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to George and let him have the bloody point.
Oh, for fuck's sake. That's the only fucking time in my life I've guessed an answer and got it right.
Oh dear God.
Oh man.
It absolutely ruins this community, I tell you.
Oh, right, move on. God, before we fall off our chairs. You'll be pleased to know
no
more.
hard feelings, GT. No hard feelings.
No, that's fine. But can I just quickly ask? At what point did Romby say, "I didn't say 7, I said 17"?
He said it loud and clear about 2 minutes before you did.
Right. Go lose track. Right. Question 4 was: how does Billy address Rebecca when she requests he wear handcuffs? GT, we'll start with you.
I was playing this the other day. He says, "No thanks, dollface." No, he says something like, "I've already had my fill of these" or something.
Something like that. Yeah. I was looking for a particular phrase, so that's fine. Stars Torrent.
I believe the quote is, "No thanks, dollface. I already tried cuffs." And then he produces the unmatched one.
Romby?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I've already tried handcuffs, so he's got the handcuffs and shows the handcuff that he's already got attached to his wrist.
Excellent points for all. That is correct. I was just looking at the face. I thought it was funny enough, so there we go. Fantastic. And finally, question number 5. What is the name of the university that Doug Wright works at before his fateful trip to Mahara Desire? George was quite confident on this, so we'll start with Romby.
No idea. You think after all the episodes you've talked about that I would have learned something, but honestly, I've never read them. No clue.
No
clue
clue
at all.
No, it's not. Okay. Start.
I wish I'd used that one for my.
I just had a guess at Harvard. I have no idea.
Harvard. Okay. And George Trevor?
These comments.
So, yeah,
no thanks,
Dollface.
Dollface. I've already made pasta today.
Also, I've already worn 1969 pairs of handcuffs.
Wait, what was the question?
What university did Doug Wright work at?
Shout out to Crimson Head Elder website. We're the first website to translate Mahara Desire in English. Bennett University.
Is correct. Very good.
Nice.
So well done, George. It's Bennett University. So let's look at the final scores of the kind of canon element. Well, joint first, it's George Trevor and Romby with 3. Trailing behind is Stars Tyrant with just the 1 point. With no Batman, there's a good chance for a win. So we move to question number 6, which is the non-canon corner. So obviously this is for everyone. An extra bonus point available. We could have a winner between Rob and GT.
No.
So according to the Biohazard Passage slot, what is the temperature of the Arklay mountain area on 24th of July 1998? Is it A, 7 degrees, B, 10 degrees, C, 14 degrees, or D, 20 degrees? Audience, cast your vote in the podcast chat now. Go!
JC Whisker, 1969 degrees.
So we've got, let's have a look. We've got BB Macot saying C, Yoke's gone for A, 7 degrees. We won't ignore JC Whisker, he's being very, very silly. Colin has gone for 10 degrees, which is B. Lou's gone for A, which is 7 degrees. I'd say it's and Sonny's gone for Monica Geller. Excellent. 7. So I have to say, I don't think the audience has been particularly helpful here, chaps. It seems to be 50-50, no one real clear answer there. Yeah, lots of guesses coming in. So, Stars Tyrant, constellation A, B, C or D?
It's really not helpful, is it? It's like literally. Oh God.
So
I'm going to stick with my hunch. I'm going to go with JC. I'm going to go with B.
10 degrees you've gone for, that's B.
Yeah.
Okay, Rob, you need this for the win. 7, 10 or 14 or 20 degrees?
I'm going to say 14.
14, that's C. Okay, George Trevor, you need this for the win as well.
Well, I really don't want to win this because of the whole 17-7 debacle. So I'm going to say the same as Romby, so at least, I can't beat him.
So then, yeah, if I get it wrong, we both get it wrong.
But what if Robbie gets it right?
Well, I won't be
both-
outright.
it's a
I won't be
draw.
outright winner, will I?
So you're going for C as well?
Yeah.
The correct answer is C, 14 degrees.
You guys.
So our final scores on the doors. Rob and GT are our joint winners with a impressive 4 out of 6 in the end. Very good, very good. And Stars Tyrant.
Doesn't this feel like there's some uniform World Cup right now? Like, there's a tie, there's controversy, like...
Rob wins on humorous comments.
Yes! That's my boundary.
There's your boundaries. There we go. And Rob holding everyone up on 1 point. That's a poor show, Rob. Sean, sorry. It's falling. Anyway, thank you. That was a memorable quiz, I think, is one way of describing it. Thank you, everyone, for playing. Join us next time when we'll have some more questions. and relax. We are nearly there. My God, that is the end of our community podcast, dubbed episode 53.5. We hope everyone joined. I want to express my thanks for everyone who from the community that's joined us today. It's been a really, really wonderful experience, and it's, I think, starting on what everyone's been doing with the RE2 streams and the remake streams with Heidi and Joe. I think it's been a really great community vibe going on at the moment, and I'm just really happy everyone could join us. It was
I want to actually take a moment to say to GT, the stream that you, Sunny, JC, and that organised with Heidi and Joe was absolutely incredible.
Oh, thanks.
I honestly didn't think I was going to enjoy it as much as I did, but to hear their insight and to hear Heidi's reaction at the fact that she's never seen the game herself, was a really rewarding experience. And long may things like that continue, because that I think that's a really interesting way and a very fresh way to present new content to people in a way that's very digestible and fun. So feel proud of yourselves for that one, guys.
Oh, cheers, thanks. And I really appreciate that, Sean. Thanks. And I mean, as you know, they're so down to earth. Joe and Heidi have done it, without them, and also Sonny Bauer, who kind of put the technical stuff together. But then, obviously you guys, because I was saying to Nick before that I was so nervous about doing that, because people, it's not like a podcast that the views can stack up over time, even if you maybe don't get some to begin with. But with that, I was so worried. I was saying, what do we do if there's only one or two people in the live chat? But then at the end of the day, it didn't actually matter how many people were there, because the people that were there, they made it very special as well. And so, if I can just put it, and thank you and everyone, and Selfish Gene for getting up at 6 a.m. and everyone else, all around the world that tuned in for that stream that made it so that we could do a part 2 and are going to, do a part 3. Thanks.
We'll look forward to the concluding part. So again, it's a good time in the community. So thank you everyone for joining us. Our next podcast, episode 54, we're a bit unsure of what to do. So I think we're probably going to put it to a Twitter vote. What we can do, we've got a couple of options. We can either do our Resident Evil Gaiden podcast, yay, or we can do Happy Birthday Resident Evil 3. I think that is 20 years old this year, and so we were going to do a bit like what we've done with Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 1 before, a kind of playthrough with each podcaster does a particular section, and we talk about that section quite religiously, if you like, and in depth. So someone does up to the RPD and so forth. So that's one option, and the other option is our playthrough in the same vein with Resident Evil Survivor. We're going to go through the different routes and talk about our experiences with going through the different routes, because there's quite a few combinations to go through. I have a particular favourite that I would want to do, and Clubhouse, Forest, Arcade, all sorts. There's a couple of options. We'll put that on Twitter and Facebook, so if you want to vote on what we do next for episode 54, that'll probably be recording that late August time, I would have thought. So on that note, I would like to again extend my thanks to everyone listening, and we'll hopefully do one of these again soon. So it's goodbye from me, Neptune.
Goodbye from me, Stars Tyrant.
Goodbye from me, Josh Trevor.
And goodbye from me, Robbie.